o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I call this meeting of the Shelton School Board of Directors to order for our October 12th meeting. Thank you all for being here. We'll go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Bob. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. So moving on to item 2, which is the adoption of the agenda. Have board members had an opportunity to look over the agenda? Is there any discussion, or would someone like to make a motion?
I motion we adopt the agenda.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The agenda is adopted. So we're going to move on to item number 3. We're going to try something a little bit different tonight. We've moved the superintendent's report to earlier in the meeting. Gives an opportunity to give some information before we go into reports and recognitions. So, Mr. Jesse.
Good evening, Board President Carr, other board directors. Thanks. Yeah, we're trying something new here, so I'll just give a little update. A lot going on for sure. We are continuing to operate with in-person services for our students. A lot of effort done by our educators and our school leaders out there right now, just trying to really keep the kids coming. I was with some staff yesterday, and one of the teachers was like, and they love being at school, and they have appreciation, maybe perhaps more for education. That was a cute comment for one of our teachers at one of our elementary schools. And just, it's always a good reminder about why we do what we do and our dedication to the students. We are averaging closing about one classroom every 10 days or so, a little over a week. Some weeks are different than others, but I think we're